I'd like to thank you for inviting me on the show. It's such an honour to be here, and I'd just like to say that when I'm not playing Xbox with my mate Thor, I really like to listen to my favourite podcast, Pop Culture Pasta. Hey Dave, I'm thinking about doing another revolution. Do you want to join up? I might need some help with organising the pamphlets though.
Pop Culture Pastor.
Okay, Cody, it's in between Christmas and New Year, which is notoriously not a good brainwave time.
What?
It's so weird that this week in between Christmas and New Year's, I don't know if it's just that I've had too much sugar. I'm not a big desserts guy, but I eat more desserts. There was a time, Christmas night, when all the feasting is done and you have all this great food for 2 days. And then you look around your house for something to eat on the 26th, and it's all cookies and sugary things. I'm like, where's all the food?
You're doing Christmas wrong then.
Is that not how it goes everywhere? Because I feel like we just had piles of cookies and sugary things.
No, at my house there's a ton of leftover Christmas ham.
Oh wow, okay, yeah, you guys were coming with the good stuff,
and then some leftover mashed potatoes.
Oh, what? Man, I didn't get any mashed potatoes this Christmas.
Your loss.
That was a crime. It's a crime, man. I feel like my my Thanksgiving and Christmas meals were just slipping a little bit this year.
It happens to the best of us, really.
Yeah, it does. Everyone's allowed an off meal. Hello. This is the Pop Culture Pastor podcast. This is going to be a weird episode, I think. Just because I feel like it's a little scattered. Again, it's in between Christmas and New Year's, which I'm coming to work, but not mind, body, and soul, right? Only parts of me.
So this Christmas school break season, I took off every day but Wednesdays.
Yeah.
Just so I would get a break, but then I also, when I had to go back to work permanently forever and ever, I wouldn't just completely hate it and wouldn't be so out of rhythm.
Yeah, Cody's wearing a onesie with a Gus Polinski and the Kenosha Kickers t-shirt over it.
As one does.
Yeah. Anyways, I don't know that this is going to be the best episode ever, but I don't know that it's going to be the worst.
It's going to be an episode for sure.
We could shock you. But just, warning up front. Cody, the Tiger King is still giving us benefits.
Thank you.
The whole owning a tiger thing, made famous by the Tiger King series on Netflix, is now illegal. The whole, I'm going to go to a place and pet tiger cubs. We have a place around where we live, that's kind of a wildlife, exotic wildlife zoo.
/ sanctuary.
And they did it. They have white tigers, and they did that thing where you could pet a tiger cub.
Yeah.
When they had them as cubs. Now that is not legal. President Biden on Tuesday signed the Big Cat Public Safety Act into law, which bans the private ownership of lions, tigers, leopards, cheetahs, jaguars, cougars, or any cross-species hybrid of those animals. And Cody, the Tiger King's never going to financially recover from this.
Ayo. So I can pet a bobcat?
I mean, have you ever seen a bobcat or been around one?
No.
I don't think you're going to want to pet a bobcat, bro.
I didn't want to pet a ginormous beast of an animal even as a cub.
True story. I had a cousin who was attacked by a bobcat while they were sleeping as a kid in their bed. So it was summer, so they had their windows open.
Oh.
Just the screen, and the cat jumped through the window and landed on them in the bed and kind of went nuts.
Ah.
Yeah, that's a real thing that happened. Kansas, man.
Rabies.
Yeah, she was okay. Superficial scratches.
Cat scratch fever.
But the cat was pissed.
I would be.
Can I say that as a pastor?
I've heard worse.
Okay. That's as risque as we get here on the Pop Culture Pastor podcast. Yeah. So you might be wondering, man, what happened here? How did this come to be? Well, if you guessed that Carol Baskin was a part of this.
Oh,
that lady, Carol Baskin, was leading the charge on this. And she says she is thankful that this is past, and now the Tiger King will hate her forever.
He was asking for a Baskin.
I'm hoping for some reconciliation. Can we get the Tiger King to a place where he's gonna realize where he went wrong and offer some forgiveness for Carol, or is that irreconcilable? Are they never going to come together? This is our desire as pastors.
As long as he's behind bars.
Oh, it's like you want him to stay there?
No, I don't think that he's going to forgive as long as he's behind bars.
Oh, right. Yeah, he's a little angry. How long is he in there for? Do we know?
I don't know.
Do we know how long? Because, was it fraud? What did he finally get arrested for? Do we know?
I couldn't remember if it was something basic or if it was the murder for hire threat.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That was probably it. He did. I forgot about that he basically hired someone inept to kill Carol Baskin.
Don't do it, kids.
Is that okay? Side discussion. Is that one of the most amazingly timed documentaries ever? Someone had to find that guy. Someone had to know that guy existed and say, wow, we need to document what's going on here. And then ask him and get their permission, and then just happen to be around when it all burned to the ground spectacularly. Because whatever you think about Tiger King, that's an amazing documentary.
/ I had never heard of the Tiger King, and we live a state away.
Yeah. Not very far away at all. Never heard of him.
And Shaquille O'Neal's petting tigers here, and Miranda Lambert's getting help from the Tiger King. And I'm like, how are all these celebrities aware of the Tiger King? And I was not.
We seriously have a big cat sanctuary type thing really near to us. That's very similar to what the Tiger King was doing. They were on Good Morning America.
They were.
Because they had white tiger cubs that were being nursed by a dog. Right? It wasn't the mom. It was this dog. I think it was a golden retriever or something. But they made it on Good Morning America. And that place, my kids loved going to that place. And then after I saw Tiger King, I was like, ooh, maybe we shouldn't like that place.
So it really depends on the overall treatment of the animals. Where the Tiger King was potentially doing a lot more harm than providing a safe space for them to live out the rest of their days. Hopefully this place is the opposite.
You want to know what the most amazing thing about that documentary was, about that story? The employee who got her arm taken off and then kept showing up for work.
Yeah.
No. What? Listen, if I come into the radio station and I lose an arm, the next thing you'll hear is from my lawyers. I'm not working again another day in my life, Cody. What? What in the world? He was right. He should have never financially recovered from that, because that was the incident.
Yeah,
where he says that.
/ how many jobs had Joe Exotic had before this? I am an EMT now. Let me throw on this jacket.
So I need to rewatch that. That whole thing was amazing. And I know that I know you shouldn't laugh because there's real bad things going on there, but also that's hilarious. He throws... An employee literally got their arm ripped off, and he's throwing on an EMT jacket and His name's Joe Exotic.
Literally post Tiger King, still early days of the pandemic, I changed my alarm ringtone to I Saw a Tiger.
That is like, if you're asking for the best documentaries of all time, that's up there.
And the thing is, it spawns like a whole bunch of interviews with the cast afterwards. Like, so David Spade brings on a bunch of people. Joel McHale does a Netflix special where he interviews everyone that was on Tiger King that was willing to be interviewed or wasn't in jail. And like, those were amazing to see. Like, some of the behind the scenes stuff didn't make it into the documentary. Some things that no one's ever heard before, and they're dropping bombshells left and right. And I'm like, this is why the Bible talks about not being all about that gossip. Because now I'm all about that gossip.
And then, another one of the great parts is there's that other guy in, like, was it Carolina, who's like way worse than the Tiger King. By the time you've watched the series, I'm like, oh, I don't know about this guy. And then now he's in trouble with the law.
Doc Antle.
Yeah, that guy. The guy who'd been on like the Tonight Show.
Yes. So there is a sequel to Tiger King that follows him.
Yeah.
And that one, it ends with like an FBI raid, but him like escaping out the side of his compound. So
yeah, there was some weird big love stuff going on with him.
Yeah.
That weird stuff. I probably will not watch that documentary.
And there's some interesting religious stuff that's happening in that documentary.
Culty? Is it culty?
It is culty, but it's like Eastern culty.
Interesting. Yeah. See, watching the Tiger King, I didn't know anything about it going into it. If I know that it's really broken humanity, I probably won't watch it. Like, so if I'd have known what Tiger King was before I got into it, I probably wouldn't have watched it. But I didn't. And thus it was kind of entertaining, but like a guilty pleasure at the same time. Like, I felt guilty being entertained by it. But I could never watch a Doc Antle documentary, because that one would be, I'd just be like, no, I know this is broken humanity going in, and thus I'd feel bad being entertained by it. There's Smallville news, Cody.
Who knew?
Were you a watcher of Smallville?
I have seen like half of the first season and then a couple random episodes mixed in since.
Strange. Like the first half of the first season?
Yes.
See, that's when it starts picking up. About halfway through the first season is when it actually kind of grabs you.
So
you needed to watch more.
Growing up, my family wasn't into like comic book stuff. I might have been. My family wasn't. So Smallville, we didn't tune into. But as an adult, going back through it, Leah's like, can we watch something else? And I'm like, I think the show's getting better.
It actually does. Yeah. So the first half of the first season of Smallville is not great. But I powered through because it was Superboy, right?
It was.
And but then about halfway through the first season, it starts to really kind of hit its stride. It was almost like they were making the show, and that first half of the first season, they were unsure. Like, is this really going to get picked up for more? Are we just doing some stories? And then about halfway through the first season, like they got that second season renewal, and they got confidence maybe in what the story they were telling, and it starts building multi-episode arcs, right? Mm-hmm. So it's real tough to watch because the first half of the first season are what they dubbed Freak of the Week episodes, where it was just a new menace that Clark had to take out, every week. It was not an ongoing story. You could miss an episode and it wouldn't matter.
Okay.
But then about halfway through the first season, it starts to pull some things together. But anyways, their showrunners, Al Goff and Miles Miller, are in the news.
Look at them go.
Yeah, it's interesting because they are the showrunners for the hit Netflix show Wednesday.
Still haven't watched it.
I haven't either, but I hear great things.
Ditto.
Addams Family is not really my jam, unless we're talking the pinball game. Then it is definitely my jam. Because that is the greatest pinball game ever made.
And Dave won't hear any Addams Family pinball game slander.
No. Well, I don't know. If you've played it, I don't know how you could slander it. What a great, great pinball game.
Dave was a pinball wizard.
I was. Those were the days. It sure plays a mean pinball. Doo, 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 doo. Okay. Anyways, they're in the news, and somebody asked them about Smallville. In particular, Christy Pina of The Reporter asked Goff and Miller if they would have done anything differently with Smallville today. And they kind of jumped at the opportunity to talk about Klana. You're probably not familiar with what that means.
I am not.
It is the relationship, specifically the relationship between Clark Kent and Lana Lang. So for like the first season and a half, 2 seasons, there's this like, they do the Ross Rachel tension thing. Mm-hmm. Because traditionally in the comics, Lana Lang is the girl that Clark likes in Smallville before he's an adult. And so Lana is like, it starts off, she's dating like the captain, the quarterback of the football team, and Clark just admires her from afar.
Creeper.
And he does have a telescope in his barn loft that he occasionally looks at her with.
Ew.
It was, as the creators are going to tell you, it was a different time. But yeah, they started talking about the Clark Lana relationship, and one of I don't know if it was Goff or Miller. It's Goff. He said the Clark Lana thing played out way too long. Agree. Hard agree. Something else had to happen there. I think that was one that got a little repetitive. He said his younger daughter was watching through Smallville now because she watched Wednesday. And so she went back to watch other things that her dad had done. And she's in Smallville. And after she was in season 2, and she asked him, what's the deal with these two? Because like, I do think that was a weird thing in the 80s and 90s where a repetitive story, like the Ross and Rachel thing, where there's the guy who's pining for the girl. Mm-hmm. And that was just a popular story. And in fact, lots of our entertainment had it. Dawson's Creek. So Friends made it popular. For a while there, every sitcom tried to copy that.
Yeah.
The will they, won't they? The guy who's pining after the girl, and the girl's, doing other relationships, but he's just sitting there waiting. And so, yeah, it's weird. It's a little dated. And he said, I think there are things there. If we went back, we probably would have been a little more adventurous with some of those relationships and bring them to certain heads and let them play out. And so, yeah, I think like it's probably not right to even say it started with Ross and Rachel. That storyline kind of plays out with maybe Sam and Diane from Cheers.
I was going to say Cheers.
So I think maybe that's the original, the guy pining for the girl, because he's like a super, flirty, flirtatious, playboy type guy. Mm-hmm. And then there's Diane, who's played by, what was her name?
By Diane.
Yeah, I don't remember her. She was big in the 80s. Who's like super bookworm and smart and kind of a nerd. Totally not right for each other.
Yeah.
And he's pining after her, and that's like a major, thing of the whole show. And so that was, I don't even know why that was a thing, but I can remember that just like being baked into my head. Like there were girls I pined for that probably never knew I pined for them, because you're supposed to pine for them, right? It's not like you're out there telling them about it, because I don't know. I was very influenced by TV and culture, obviously. So, just know if you went to high school with me, there's probably a couple of you out there I definitely pined for, and you have no idea.
You're welcome.
Because in my head, my life was a TV show.
It happens.
Of course, they went on to say they would write all their female characters differently from the modern vantage point, which...
and they probably wouldn't cast that one lady. She who shall not be named.
Oh, man, yeah.
Which there was a news story that broke about her or was released.
Chloe? Mm-hmm. There was a news story? Did she get out of prison?
No, I don't know if she did or didn't. She revealed why she joined.
She was a part of a cult.
Why she joined the cult.
She revealed why? Why? Do you know?
Didn't read. I just saw the title and I'm like, I don't care about this person. So I did not read it.
They did say something interesting because they were asked about James Gunn's Superman movie that he is said to be developing about a younger Superman. And someone kind of asked him if they would ever revisit Superman. And he said, I think we told that story and they're always refreshing Superman. I just read last night about James Gunn and his new younger Superman movie. And I'm like, okay, I feel like we were very, very fortunate to do the show when we did it because we got to make the show we wanted to make. And frankly, there was no committee sitting over us telling us what we could do or couldn't do. I mean, we had Warner's features who wouldn't give us certain characters that we wanted, but we got to make the show we wanted to make, which we wouldn't be allowed to make that show today.
Oh, no, they would not.
There were so many deviations from the canon. One generation's heresy is the next generation's gospel. That's an interesting line.
Oh, bazang.
Yeah. And it goes back like to some things we talked about in previous episodes about the canon, the IP, and fans' reactions to that.
And tradition.
Yeah. So anyways, yeah, that's making headlines. For whatever reason. You sent that story to me and I was like, Smallville news? What?
It's back.
No, it's not back. It's not back at all. And yeah, that show would be a colossal failure today. It had to hit during that time. Mm-hmm. Because I rewatch it occasionally and I watch through it and I still like it because I enjoy it. But I also watch it and understand, nobody would want this today.
No.
It's so weird how quickly times have changed.
Yeah, I'm intrigued by like the shows that do withstand the test of time and those that like quickly just go by the wayside that if you rewatch it, it's like, ugh, this is rough. Which my wife and I have been rewatching a show, Community, and she told me the other day that, I didn't like the other times we've watched this, like the Dean wasn't that creepy to me, but he's really creepy.
No, he's super creepy.
And I'm like, he's always been creepy.
He wasn't that creepy to you. What?
She said that she chuckled at some of his scenes, like the first couple times we've watched Community.
He moves into the same building as Jeff, a student.
He also uses the Freedom of Information Act to read Jeff's emails.
Oh no, he's super creepy. Super stalker vibes.
The Dalmatian thing. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on with the Dean.
Also, that show holds up. That show holds up well. I still think The Office holds up well. I know a lot of people disagree with that, and I think Friends holds up well. I know some people will say it doesn't hold up well because they're younger and the culture's different, and so they don't like it. But I say no, it captures that time real well. And you don't have to judge the characters. I mean, like, look, they weren't so the main criticism of Friends and The Office is that's not funny because that's offensive or, something they said. Mm-hmm. But in the time frame they were, first of all, those characters were never presented as perfect. In particular on The Office, where you were in on the joke, you understood that these were not great people.
Yeah. And so going back to Community, I think that part of the reason why they purposely show that most of the campus really hates this study group is because this study group is like the group of friends. Like, if you were hanging out at the Central Perk, that you probably hated the group that's hogging the couch and singing about a smelly cat.
There is a great episode of Friends where somebody steals the couch, like some alpha males. And they just take the couch from Chandler and Ross because, like, Chandler and Ross, not the manliest of men.
No.
And they get alpha mailed out, and it's hilarious. All right. One more piece of news.
Okay.
Because this was something that came up. Thanks to Ryan Johnson. I love every time we bring up Ryan Johnson, it's like nerd volcano.
Yeah.
Everyone has thoughts about Ryan Johnson. And so I think Ryan Johnson maybe revels in it. And he made a big claim. Someone apparently asked him, who's the greatest wrestler turned actor?
If he doesn't say Hulk Hogan.
Hulk Hogan is not mentioned.
The dude played the nanny.
Hulk Hogan was the first, right?
He was.
He's the trailblazer. We give him respect.
Andre the Giant.
Yeah, but like Andre, I mean, he was more of a curiosity. One role, pretty much.
The Princess Bride's a classic, and I will not hear any slander.
He is the George Murison of wrestling actors. Respect, though. I like Andre the Giant. Apparently was a sweet man. So, yeah, Ryan Johnson was asked about this in an interview with David Sims of The Athletic, and he praised Dave Bautista. Johnson named Bautista as someone who surprised him most in the Glass Onion Knives Out mystery movie. Noted that he was smitten by the idea of using him for the role. Dave Bautista, when I was writing his character, I was picturing a scrawny dude who's trying to overcompensate. When Bautista was brought up, I was instantly so smitten by the idea. I've been a very big fan of his dramatic chops as an actor. And so, as a person, he's genuinely immediately vulnerable when you meet him, and that's what I was excited about. But yeah, he went on, and he basically says he is the best wrestler turned actor over his counterparts, The Rock and John Cena. Cody, thoughts?
I really thought about this one long and hard.
I bet you did.
And I think Dwayne The Rock Johnson's number 3.
I do too. I agree.
I do give the edge to Batista just because I think there has been more variation to who he plays. Mm-hmm. Like, so Cena, he can play a comedic role well. And like the deadpan, serious, military, rough guy, and it's okay. But like, I think Batista has better range. Yeah. And he also is, I guess, more selective about what he does versus like, I feel Dwayne The Rock Johnson's like, oh, End of the World movie? Sign me up.
The Rock is the best at playing The Rock. I'll give him that. It so makes sense in our world, though, that The Rock is the most successful. Mm-hmm. Like, of course he is. He is easily the third best out of those three. You're right, because John Cena has a little bit more depth than The Rock.
Yeah,
he can be hilarious.
Oh,
like, he can do comedy, which The Rock can throw out a one-liner. The Rock is very much Arnold Schwarzenegger, right? So in the 80s, you had the action stars of Sylvester Stallone. You had Bruce Willis was on that list for a while, and you had Arnold Schwarzenegger. And Arnold Schwarzenegger, like, look, have you seen Jingle All the Way?
Holiday classic.
Oh, man. Yeah, acting, it wasn't great, but he was Arnold Schwarzenegger, and he'd drop one-liners in his action movies, and that's what I think about The Rock. I think about him. John Cena's got a little bit more to him. He's the Sylvester Stallone of our time.
Yeah. I mean, his performance in Fast 9 was but Fast 9 as a whole was because the whole Fast and Furious franchise is mostly trash.
But if you've seen Glass Onion,
yes, I did.
Then you know that like when you see Dave Bautista on screen, John Cena and The Rock couldn't have done that role. He was great.
Oh my goodness. Since we're not doing a review of the movie, I wanted to keep spoilers to the minimum, but he made me feel all sorts of emotions during the movie.
Yeah, he was awesome. And I was impressed because, mostly I know him as Drax, which I think subtly is a really good performance. I don't think he gets enough credit for it.
Yeah.
Because there's some real subtle things going on there. He's not just playing big and dumb.
Although he is big.
He is very big.
He's a gigantic man.
All right. That's the news. We'll just come back and we'll get into the our best ofs. I was thinking about doing the lobby, but we went on long.
We did.
News. So we'll do the lobby next week. When we come back, we'll get to the main crux of this show, which is our favorite things of 2022. Okay, welcome back. It's time for our best of, the best of 2022. Cody, in between there, we got on to talking about something else. And since this is a pop culture podcast, we can talk about whatever we want. Mm-hmm. We have a main thing to talk about, but I would be remiss if I didn't bring our listeners in on this conversation right here at the top before we get into this.
Okay.
I saw the trailer for the new M. Night Shyamalan movie with Dave Bautista.
Knock at the Cabin.
Yeah. And from the beginning, it just throws it on the screen almost immediately. It's like an M. Night Shyamalan film. And I'm like, nope. And then I watched the trailer and I'm like, doggone it. Okay, I want to see the movie. It's something about M. Night Shyamalan says, man, he can make a good trailer. And I'm pulled in by the interestingness of what this is. I'm pulled in with this. But now I'm like, I don't know. Okay, I'm in. And I know what's going to happen. It's an M. Night Shyamalan movie. So I'm going to be like, it's going to be this really interesting concept. And I'm going to be into it. And then there's going to be a big twist at the end. And I'm going to be like, that's stupid.
Anytime an M. Night movie comes out, I watch the trailer and I think, man, this guy knows how to cut a trailer. Because there's a lot of intrigue. And then, you go to the movie, and like you said, there's going to be a twist. So I'm, trying to guess the twist from the first opening credits up until the point that the twist becomes very obvious. But then, at the same time, in the back of my head, anytime M. Night comes up, I go to this episode from Scrubs. And in Scrubs, this episode... It's the janitor, and he was like, I was bowling with my friend Mun Knight, and I was telling Mun Knight, you picking up this split's going to be more impossible than one of your twist endings, my friend. And he just keeps calling him Mun Knight, and JD, who's played by Zach Braff, is like, it's M. Night. And he's like, no, I would know. He's my friend Mun Knight.
Yeah. So anyways, it's got Dave Bautista in it, and darned if it doesn't look like something that interests me.
It happens to the best of us.
I can't quit you, M. Night. I can't. I wanted to after The Happening. I really wanted to.
Split was good.
Yeah, but the next one wasn't.
Glass was okay.
No, it wasn't. It was bad. It was mildly interesting, And then you realize by the time you get to the end, you realize what he was trying to do, like start his own superhero universe. And you're like, no, M. Night.
I already had given him his own superhero universe with Split.
No, Split. Okay, to be fair, the end credits of Split.
Yes, like at that moment, I'm like, okay, I'm here for this.
And we went and saw Glass, and it sucked.
It's okay.
No, it wasn't. It was not. The end was terrible. Ruined. Everything was ruined.
It's all vain.
Bruce Willis deserved better.
Although, like, we learn more about Bruce Willis's health condition and the time period that it's happening, it's like, oh, Bruce probably shouldn't have been acting in this.
Yeah, probably not. That's sad. I won't talk about that. All right, let's move on. So we're here, Cody, to talk about our favorites of 2022. That's what we're here for. So, what category should we start off with? Or do you have any general things you want to say about 2022? Like, yeah, 2022, it wasn't as bad as 2020. Yay.
So it wasn't as bad as 2020, but I think that we're still suffering from the side effects of 2020.
Oh, yeah.
That, like, studios still aren't in full swing. They're still not fully trusting in movie theaters to turn a profit. And like this, it's going to be out in theaters one weekend and then instantly on demand streaming. I don't know how I feel about that trend. Mm-hmm. There's only a few movies that this year really kind of went away from that and actually stayed the full 6 weeks or however long movies typically are in theaters before like that period of, okay, now it's going to be on streaming platforms.
Yeah, it's been real weird because I think the movie, I think what I want to say is that the movie theater complex, the industry, is still struggling.
It is.
But I think the big movies, it's made them bigger. Like, let's take Top Gun, for instance. I don't think there's as many movies in the theater now as there were previously before the pandemic. Yeah. It just seems a lot more sparse, a lot more thin. And so, but people still like going to the movies. And so if there's a movie out that's capturing any sort of like, the zeitgeist, then people are going to see it. And I think that's kind of what happened with Top Gun because like Top Gun was enjoyable. Everyone understood it wasn't cinematic art, but people just wanted to lose themselves in the movie at the movie theater. They wanted to enjoy the magic of the movies. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I was going to say this was Citizen Kane of 2022.
Oh, stop it. Tom Cruise thanks you. Are you on his payroll? Are you a
yet.
Scientologist? But like, for instance, so Avatar Way of Water is in movies theaters now. And like, literally there's nothing.
Oh, yeah.
There's nothing else. And Christmas has generally been a time where there's lots of movies to choose from, but there's really nothing out there. So it just crossed $1 billion worldwide after 2 weeks. And there's a legitimate, I think there's a legitimate possibility out there to say it might cross 2, which would be unheard of worldwide.
Stop rewatching it, people. Just stop it.
Do we need to stop and give a full review? Let Cody give a full review of Avatar Way of Water? Is it too much?
We can do that another time.
He's currently in therapy over his Avatar movie watching.
Oh,
that his wife made him go to.
It was so frustrating because the way it ends, and literally the way it ends, it made 3 hours and 25 minutes of the 3 hours and 30 minutes completely useless. Because the very beginning...
You got M. Night Shyamalan.
The very beginning, if we just listen to the wife during it, then the rest of the movie doesn't happen and you end up at the same place.
Yeah, I haven't seen it, but I heard that. I heard that the characters make dumb decisions just to move the story in the direction.
Oh, yeah. And And throughout the movie, James Cameron's trying to make each scene seem like it's the most dire and most crucial. And by making it seem like it is super important, it really negates its value and makes the whole movie meaningless. And there was a lot of themes that I could attribute to other movies because, again, he's borrowing from various indigenous cultures. And it's like, you could have just made a movie about the actual indigenous culture you're honoring instead of making them blue or green.
Serious question.
Okay.
Is it because he's on the side of like indigenous people's good, white colonizers bad? Is it because he's on that side that he doesn't? Why are people not all over him for appropriation? Is it because he's like on the side of most of the people that would scream that?
I've seen more articles this go around.
Has there been? Okay.
About like,
all I'm asking for is consistency, Cody.
Like, why are you stealing our culture, our identity, some of the things we value as sacred and traditional, and then making it blue aliens on a completely foreign planet?
Yeah.
And so,
I'm not, that was my problem with it in the first movie. I didn't like any of that. I didn't like that it was tropey, lots of tropes.
Oh, yeah.
New tropes, of course, because, there was the old tropes of, white people good, indigenous people bad in the old Westerns, which was a terrible trope. And then they just flipped it around for present day. And really, and like, not to beat a dead horse, because that's probably frowned upon. But 1883, Taylor Sheridan, who's like, look, is never going to be accused of deep storytelling, right? He actually did something in 1883 that I really appreciated, where that was out the window. Human beings are complex. The West was rough. And it didn't depend on what group you ran into. It depended on the individual you ran into.
Yeah.
You could run into an individual indigenous person who had ill intentions for you, or you could run into an individual white person who had ill intentions for you. And I appreciated that. I was like, yeah, humans are complex. Quit broadly generalizing.
Yeah.
Some of them were good.
Indeed. There was a lot more I could say about Avatar: Way of Water. It will not be making my best of.
Yeah, let's not. Let's move on.
But I will say, like, with 2022, the big studios in their financial, like, stability is a big thing as well.
Yeah.
So you have the whole mess with Warner Brothers, and then becoming Warner Brothers Discovery. But even Disney was like, there was talks and rumblings, we might combine with Apple, or we might combine with someone else because it's tough to turn a profit. And I'm like, how are you not making a profit?
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? Well, I mean, how much does Avatar have to make money? 1.4 billion?
Yeah.
That's insanity. Is if the movie, let's say the movie theater complex kept declining, would it be Joe Biden's Barack Obama moment, too big to fail moment, like with the automobile industry? Do you think the government would ever bail out movie studios? Because, like, I mean, seriously, let's imagine a world where movie studios were all going broke. And the government was like, we need our entertainment. So all you movie studios, here's some free money. Not you, Disney. Like, and Disney be like, what? What, you going to give everyone else money? That's not fair.
So I really hope that they would never bail out cinema.
You would hope that, but that's not
studios,
the history.
Just because, like, I get it that studios employ thousands upon thousands of people, from food catering to makeup to design to the people that are holding the boomsticks, whatever. But I mean, literally within my hand, I have technology I could film a movie on.
Yeah.
That they show that they have filmed a commercial using this type of phone and look at the quality. And it's like, okay. Now, I don't have the talent to tell a story or to actually get the lighting or that sort of stuff. So there's talented individuals, but there's also a lot of people that are like, pay me horrifically huge dollars.
Well, it all kind of rests on how are we going to want to take in movies? Because streaming, we're in the middle of the streaming boom where movies are made specifically for streaming networks. So, and really it's going to be the younger generation. So like my generation, yeah, of course I want to see it in a theater. I like going to the theater. But is that a nostalgic feeling for me? Could I just watch something at home on my TV? Is that a big enough screen with good enough sound? I mean, yeah, you can get that. I don't have fancy speakers or anything. I just use my TV speakers, but some people got the whole setup,
I need to get a 20-foot projector screen in like a blacked out room, evidently. Because I do appreciate the giganticness of a like good quality movie at the theater. Like Top Gun. Literally it just looks phenomenal when it is 7 times the size it should be.
Yeah. But it's going to be, it really is up to Generation Z. They're going to be the deciders of this. Do you want to see movies in a theater and pay $20 for popcorn and a drink? Or are you fine with watching it at home? I would say it's good news that, like, look, as much as I hate it, it's good news that Avatar is making the money. I hate it because now we got to listen to Jim Cameron talk about why he's the best filmmaker who's ever lived and diss on everything else, which is no fun. But like, I'm going to, as a Christian, I'm not going to judge him. I'm going to try not to judge him. And I'm going to be like, okay, it's Jim. We know he's broken. This is his brokenness. I'm going to love him anyways. So that part of I'm like not excited about it, but Avatar making money, Top Gun making money, Marvel movies making money is a good thing for the movie complex, but it is changing and I guess we don't really know yet.
Mm-hmm.
But it's good that we talked about it right off the bat. I did not expect we would talk about it that long, but here we are. It turned into a good intro for our review of 2022.
Yes.
What do we want to start off with here? Do we want to start off with TV? Are there any books? Did you read any books this year, Cody?
Oh, there was some great social work and psychology books I read.
Cody went back to school this year.
Yeah.
So, for what, master's program?
MSW.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he just read educational things.
Textbooks. And there was this, I mean, it's a classic book. It's huge. It's actually like 66 books in one, but the Bible. Read that one.
I read a book. The only book I really want to mention is called Dominion by Tom Holland. Not that Tom. Stop it.
What?
Not Spider-Man.
Spider-Man could do it all.
The description of the book says this: a marvelous account of how the Christian Revolution forged the Western imagination. Crucifixion, the Romans believed, was the worst fate imaginable, a punishment reserved for slaves. How astonishing it was then that people should have come to believe that one particular victim of crucifixion, an obscure provincial by the name of Jesus, was to be worshipped as a god. Dominion explores the implications of this shocking conviction as they have reverberated throughout history. Today, the West remains utterly saturated by Christian assumptions. As Tom Holland demonstrates, our morals and ethics are not universal, but are instead the fruits of a very distinctive civilization. Concepts such as secularism, liberalism, science, and homosexuality are deeply rooted in a Christian seedbed. From Babylon to the Beatles, St. Michael to Me Too, Dominion tells the story of how Christianity transformed the modern world. Incredible book. It's very academic, Cody. So it's not an easy read. It's a very long book. But basically what he has done is he has painted this picture, has Tom Holland, of a world and of humanity that is he does his, like, this guy's a historian, right? So this guy knows what he's talking about. And it's like a nail in the coffin of social evolution. Have you heard that phrase?
Yes.
Okay. So if you believe in evolution, as in, like, we started off as simpler organisms, right? And everything evolved into what we are today as humans. If you believe in that, you also tend to believe in social evolution, meaning all our morals and our ideals have evolved over time with humanity. That as we got smarter and bigger brains or whatever, that we evolved morality. However, what he does a great job of, and I think if you're a historian, you have to admit, is humans are pretty awful in the grand scheme of history.
Yes.
Terrible until about 2,000 years ago. And after Jesus, this morality sort of enters the world. These ideals enter the world that were not present before. So the idea of social evolution doesn't really work well because it only started about 2,000 years ago, which, that's just the smallest little piece of human history. So what's the story? Well, he tells the story. And like I said, it's a long, big book. And so it'll take you a while to read, but it's so good. He actually grew up in Christian education. Did Tom Holland? He went to Christian schools, Catholic school probably. And he was always more fascinated with the pagan cultures because he loved history. That makes sense to me. And as he studied pagan cultures as an adult, as he got older, he realized that, hey, all of these ideals he's a liberal guy, Cody. All of these ideals and morals that I hold so dear, they weren't present. They weren't present. And it's all Jesus. And when he starts writing this book, he was a non-believer. And now he is a believer. And so, which I think is that's the conclusive end to any study of history, of human history especially. I think that's where you will end up. I think logic dictates that Jesus was a real person who walked the earth and the things he said were absolutely true. And that's why I believe.
Yeah. That book sounds really interesting.
It's very good. I can let you borrow it, but you probably won't want any piece of it until
May.
until you're done. Cause it's pretty in depth. But that would be my selection. People, go check out Dominion by Tom Holland.
So I read a book this year. It was a graphic novel.
Congratulations.
That I don't know when it came out, so I can't tell you if it was the best of 2022. And I honestly can't tell you the name of it because it's in your office. But it was a Black Label Batman Joker story.
Oh, yeah, I need to read that.
Which... Holy cow, it was really good.
So, I've got a stack of graphic novels I need to read.
But it tells the story about it focuses on a kid and you don't know who the father is, if it's going to be Mr. J or the Bat. And like, it was really good.
Yeah, I'm currently reading Avengers Forever graphic novel, and then there's another one. I think it's a collection of Avengers stories that lead up to Secret Wars, but I'm reading them because they're probably stories that are going to be borrowed from in Phase 5 and Phase 6 in Marvel, the MCU. Avengers Forever in particular is a Kang story, and is very interesting and probably going to be a heavy influence on Kang Dynasty.
Dave's going to be an expert.
That's the plan.
I will not be. You will have fresh eyes with this one.
All right, music. Did you have any favorite albums?
So it's so difficult with music because, like, something could be released last year, but then not make it big until this year.
Yeah.
And so, like, Need to Breathe released an album towards the tail end of 2021. And then,
Was it the live album? Because that live album's amazing.
the live album also comes out
Near the end of 2020.
near the end of 2021 as well. And so, like, most of 2022 has been Cody, like, diving into Need to Breathe. But, I mean, there's been some great Christian music, and that's probably where, like, my strength is like listing off Christian music. But, like, Taylor Swift's new album, you didn't expect this one to come, but Taylor Swift's new album, I think, is one of her better albums. And
I wouldn't know.
I like it when she goes more folk music, more that indie acoustic vibe versus like trying to be pop or country. Like, honestly, I think her best song is Safe and Sound, featuring the Civil Wars from the Hunger Games soundtrack.
Yeah.
That is probably where she is at her best. And so just for the culture, I'll throw in Taylor Swift.
I just think Taylor needs to, like, reconcile some of her over her past relationships. Because not for anyone else, but for her. I think she's a little too consumed with people that have done her wrong.
Jake Gyllenhaal, give her back her scarf.
Buy a new scarf, Taylor.
Do you know how hard it is to find a good scarf, Dave?
No, I don't. Because I don't wear scarves.
That's on you.
I'm not a British soccer hooligan or someone who would wear scarves.
So I will throw that song where she made like a 10 to 15 minute music video as like the best music video of 2022 because music videos evidently are still a thing. But she got like real actors to be in it.
And she directed it.
Allegedly. And I'm like, oh, hey, guy from Teen Wolf and Maze Runner. And hey, girl from Stranger Things.
Sadie Sink.
You guys are in this.
Yeah, that was
Dylan O'Brien.
That was something that never came up in our pop culture news segments, but there was a huge to-do over her being invited to speak on like some directors roundtable sort of thing.
Yeah.
And with all these like major directors, and people were like, because she directed her 15-minute music video. Allegedly. Some people had questions.
She did a good job if she did it.
Okay. So. Yeah. I would know. I haven't watched it. I don't have albums as much as I have artists.
Okay.
Right? Because like I'm like you. So there's a group called Dawson Hollow, and these are all going to be like Christian style groups. I mean, our radio show's on a station called KFEX. You can find it at www.kfex931.com. And their whole thing is that they play, it's a Christian music station, but not like all other Christian radio where it's all like the same 15 to 20 artists and worship music 24/7. KFEX plays like all these other kind of outliers. Mm-hmm. And there's really, really good music out there that's not worship music, but it's Christian created.
Yeah.
And so Dawson Hollow is this group from Missouri. They're siblings. They're a young group, and they have like a young it's a kind of a young but retro poppy sound. And they have an album called Even When It Doesn't Rhyme, which again came out end of 2021, but I listened to it most of this year. It's fantastic. I assume some people listening to this pod will have heard of Drew Holcomb and the Neighbors and Johnny Swim. Surely people have heard of Johnny Swim, right? They have secular popularity.
Oh, yeah. John Mark McMillan released some great singles this year.
Yeah. But Drew Holcomb and the Neighbors and Johnny Swim released their second Goodbye Road EP, which check out both of them. you're gonna want to hear them. They're amazing. There's only like 4 or 5 songs on each one, but they're fantastic. So Drew Holcomb and the Neighbors and Johnny Swim. Brandon Lake, I mean, as far as worship music goes, we're lucky to have Brandon Lake. We're blessed. Like, Brandon Lake's amazing. His album Help is really good. If you haven't heard that, there's a group called Color Vault. Color Vault. Speaking of worship, if you like worship but in different ways, like you're a fan of like King's Kaleidoscope, for instance, you'll love Color Vault. Color Vault on their own. This is their about section. It says, we want to create a space for worship that's raw, curious, and unhindered, a space that embraces the mystery of God and every possible response to his majesty and love, a space that can hold the desperate pursuit of God's presence with enough room for pain and doubt, a space that unlocks the depths of the human soul, the place that feels trapped, confined, and misunderstood, even space for the weird, because worship isn't smooth, it's textured. Worship is defiance, and worship is surrender. They're interesting, and they're wonderful. So I would highly recommend Color Vault. And my last one, and this one's a little bit more worship too, but just in a more R&B sense, Ryan Ellis. If you've never heard of Ryan Ellis, you should check out Ryan Ellis because he's awesome.
I have one more. So this artist, he's a lead singer of a big, well-known group, Switchfoot, John Foreman. He released an album towards the end of last year called Departures. And if you like the contemplative, thought-provoking, deeper albums, he's really good at that. Like, he has several EPs from the past that like deal with all the emotions and all the seasons of life. But his new album was really good. So.
Okay. Yeah, I dig Switchfoot. I dig John Foreman.
I honestly think I prefer John Foreman solo to Switchfoot.
Yeah.
Although it's a completely different style and sound.
It's much more mellow.
Where like Switchfoot, I do enjoy their music, but it's like every other album I'm good with.
John Foreman, when he's by himself, gives me like Christian Coldplay vibes.
Yes, that's a good way to describe it.
Yeah. Are you playing any video games? Do you have any video game?
Red Dead Redemption 2.
That one's been out for a while, though, right?
Red Dead Redemption 2.
Like, look, we're old. Cody's not quite as old as me, but like, yeah, honestly, I play Rocket League, which has been out for years. So I'm the terrible person to talk about the video games of 2022. But if I had to, and I think this qualifies, I would say Marvel Snap on my phone. Marvel Snap's fun. I love Marvel Snap.
Marvel Snap is fun. We both play it.
It consumes too much of my time.
Sid Meier's Civilization 6.
Oh my goodness. That's a couple years old too.
Yeah, it is a couple years old, but they released some new DLC, so I'm going to count it.
Oh, I may have to go back to it.
And then Skyrim released a bunch of new DLC, either tail end of last year or this year, early this year, because it was whatever anniversary of Skyrim being out. And so basically all things old are new again.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not a gamer anymore. And so the new games are kind of lost on me.
So like
we'd have to bring my son on.
Last year I played Madden 22, which this year's is Madden 23 because they're always like projecting. But it was so bad. Like for a company that makes I don't know how many millions and millions of dollars off everyone that is buying or game passing Madden.
Yeah.
I expect the glitches to not be as bad as they are, but yet every year they're horrific.
They're stealing money. They're stealing it.
And they delayed the game that I've been looking forward to for the past like 10 years of my life. They were going to release a new
college
football game, and I'm like, huzzah, Cody's back.
Yeah, KU's good, or not as bad as they used to be.
Exactly. And then no, it gets pushed back another year, so I'll never get to play it.
Do you watch a lot of YouTube? I figured we'd include any YouTube channels we wanted to shout out.
So I'll shout out the two people we had on the podcast that had YouTube channels.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Kane, Geek of the Round Table, Kane Colton, who has the Vintage Brick, which is a Lego channel.
Yes.
And Brom.
Mm-hmm.
Brom, Broham Animations.
The Broham Animations, they're legit, even though those are a lot shorter.
We shared a new video from him where he like totally recreated a scene from The Office. And if you haven't, we posted it on our Pop Culture Pastor account. If you haven't watched it, you should go on to Facebook and check that out because it's amazing.
I'm going to have to check it out because I just got my social media back.
Yeah, go check out this recreation of a scene. It's the scene where Jim wraps Dwight's desk like for Christmas. Oh my goodness. Down to the camera work. And when Jim looks at the camera, like there's so many subtle things going on there. He's amazing. And he's 16 years old.
We need to have him do a Pop Culture Pastor.
I know.
Like intro video.
Well, we got to, I think he wants us, like he said he would do it for us, but we got to come like record something. So if we record a script, he'll make it. He'll make the Lego animation.
Do we look like content creators?
I know, right? I'm just like, you seem to have me wrong. I just talk about other people's creations.
So basically what we need to do is just get a snippet from one of our previous episodes where it either goes off the rails.
Oh, good call.
Or have something that's just really funny, and then
let's ask the listeners. Listeners, what has been one of the funniest segments you remember from our pod?
Yes.
Where me and Cody got into it, or we were really passionate about something, or you laughed hard. What was a segment that you really loved? And then maybe we could go back and find that and send it to Brom so he could Lego us. That would be amazing. YouTube channels I love. Den of Nerds. That's where I get all my spoiler fixes and conjecture. Now, granted, if you don't like spoilers, if that ruins specifically superhero stuff, I'm just such a Marvel geek that I want to know what they're thinking. I want to know, rumors are rumors. And so most spoiler rumor things that come out, there's about a 25% chance they have some sort of accuracy. But then it doesn't bother me. Like I still go see the movie and I'm just so excited to see comic book stuff on a screen that knowing that there might be some elements of things that I already know are going to happen doesn't bother me all that much, but it may bother you.
It's weird. Some things do bother me with spoilers, like if it's a major spoiler. But then some things don't. Like I sent an article about Gal Gadot's returning to the Fast and Furious franchise for this last movie that they're making. And one of my friends was like, spoiler alert. And I'm like, she was going to be in the trailer for it. You were going to see it before.
So, Den of Nerds, the guy that runs that channel, his name's Josh. Super awesome dude. I wish he wouldn't curse so much, but I love Josh anyways. Ruslan. If you've never heard of Ruslan and you are a Christian, you might be interested in Ruslan's channel. I would describe him as sort of like the Christian Joe Rogan. I think that's what he's trying to build. It's something like that. Some sort of network like that. He talks about, things that some Christians would be interested in. He talks about the faith. He talks about, Christian culture.
Like I'm really wanting him to dive into Christian hip hop beef.
He does talk about that.
Because there is some big hip hop beef that I didn't know until this year. That
oh yeah,
between like some big names.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, we're not friends?
They're Reach Records, Lecrae. Oh yeah, there's all sorts of beef between Lecrae and a lot of people.
Shy Lynn, and I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Shy's like the coolest dude.
So this is where it would benefit us to have DJ on.
We need
DJ knows all the beef.
DJ.
If you don't know who DJ is, he was on one episode of the pod.
And he needs to be on another.
We told him he could never come back. Because the documentary pod, that was the documentary episode, and it's like 2.5 hours long. And that's all DJ's fault.
And it went off the rails in a beautiful train wreck.
Which it usually does. So if you want an idea of DJ, go back and listen to the documentary pod.
The whole thing.
The whole thing.
And like Dave doesn't talk. I randomly insert myself.
There's a point where DJ and Cody are just going back and forth where I'm just shaking my head for like somewhere around the second hour. I give up. I just give up. I'm like, I'm not steering this plane anymore. Other YouTube channels, Joe Rogan, like, listen, he is not really on YouTube anymore. He's on Spotify. And I know that Joe Rogan, that all people have all the opinions. He has opinions. I don't always agree with him, but he gets interesting people on his show and they talk about interesting things. Excuse me. And so I just really find Joe Rogan's show interesting. And just because I disagree with things doesn't mean I have to hate him. I know that's a weird thing to say nowadays, but I like him. Talkville, which is a podcast where the actors of Smallville, Michael Rosenbaum, who played Lex Luthor, and Tom Welling, who played Clark Kent, they're doing an episode by episode rewatch. They've just finished season 1. And if you were a fan of the show Smallville, you'll like that because they talk about a lot of things that behind the scenes stuff, obviously. And yeah, those are my YouTube channels. We mentioned Broham Animations.
I know this is another podcast, but they do have a YouTube channel, and so like just depends on where I'm at. But Revisionist History.
Yeah. Malcolm Gladwell. He's amazing. Yeah, that's a great pod. Hey, we bless other pods. If we listen to it, if you're not listening to Revisionist History by Malcolm Gladwell, you really should be. That's an amazing podcast.
Like his commentary on golf courses in LA, you think that sounds stupid. And yet by the end of the episode, you are about to march to LA and take over those lands.
This was a few seasons back, but my favorite thing he did was on Memory. Mm-hmm. The one where he did about who was the guy that lied about the Gulf War stuff, the news anchor.
What's his name? Brian
something. Yeah. And then there's he talks about 9/11 and then he ends it all with Elvis. And it's just, it's just amazing. You should be checking out Revisionist History by Malcolm Gladwell. Let's move on to TV, series, streaming. What were the shows this year?
Of course, Stranger Things.
Yeah.
It's going to be there.
The ones we talked about, I was like, yeah.
But for me, this is the lone bright spot that I think that Marvel still hasn't caught up to DC is series, because Peacemaker blows everything Marvel released this year, last year, year before that out of the water. And Sandman, again, DC property, done by Netflix. Beautiful. Almost shot for shot, scene for scene, straight out of Sandman book 1.
Yeah, I think it's fair. I think it's fair to say Sandman's not really a DC thing, though.
It is DC.
Neil Gaiman, he's the one who did it, and he did the TV show, and it's on Netflix. It's not a part of DC Studios. So giving them any sort of credit for it, yeah, other than the logo.
Their logo's there. It is a DC
They
comic.
own the property, Cody. They had nothing to do with the production.
I'm just saying that, Marvel owns the property to a ton of comics.
I'm not saying Sandman's not better.
That they literally
I'm saying
could,
giving Warner Brothers credit for it is stupid because they didn't have anything to do with it.
they could literally decide, hey, we will actually make something worth rewatching.
You took it and you tried to give DC credit for it. Just say that the people that made it did a great job, which they did. Same with Peacemaker.
Which Peacemaker was DC.
That
Warner
absolutely
Brothers.
was. I am fine with you giving them credit.
But that was
don't make
also-
it a DC versus Marvel thing with Sandman.
That was also a James Gunn thing.
Yeah.
So
James Gunn. Props to James Gunn.
Yeah.
Listen, you're right. I do have Moon Knight on my list, but it's largely because of the wonderful acting
oh yeah,
in Moon Knight, which was great.
Oscar is the man.
Yeah, Oscar Isaac's fabulous in it. Ethan Hawke's good. Like it was just so good, well acted. And boy, that episode where oh man, it was heartbreaking. That was it, the 5th episode. So good. But I put it on there, and I wanted to stay off the beaten path because we talked about Stranger Things.
We did.
I really enjoyed Rings of Power.
Oh, Rings of Power was phenomenal.
I know that that's one of those that is widely divided, but we've talked a lot about that. A little lesser known one that I would throw in there, Murderville.
Oh, Murderville was great.
Murderville's fantastic. It's basically a murder mystery where someone isn't in on it. So there's a bunch of actors that are all in on it. They're playing parts, and then they throw in some celebrity who has no idea about what's going on. It's like a murder mystery for one, and the results are hilarious. It's good stuff. You should watch Murderville.
So I'm going to have one that comes from a crime drama, if you will. Let me look up the title because the title's different than the documentary that it covers, which the documentary was called Abducted in Plain Sight, but the series is called A Friend of the Family. And A Friend of the Family is this great crime genre, real life story, and it has Anna Paquin and Colin Hanks, half brother of Chet.
We do have a fascination with the Hanks,
All the Hanks,
offspring, especially Chet.
especially the Chet.
We got to have Chet on the show. So did you have any more TV, Cody?
So we did mention it, but it was in like the studio discussion. But 1883
Yeah.
instantly became the best Yellowstone season ever.
The best in the Sheridan verse.
Yes.
I haven't watched Tulsa King yet, but I hear Tulsa King is good. Is worth watching with Sylvester Stallone. So I'm going to watch it. I don't know that that's in the Sheridan verse, but he does executive produce it.
He does, and I completely forgot about this TV show because it's an Apple show, which, I mean, was Ted Lasso's season also came out. Yeah, most recent season came out this year. But Severance.
Yeah.
Severance, oh my goodness, that was very captivating. If you haven't watched it, spend the like $5 or $10 a month for Apple TV. Well, binge watch Ted Lasso, then cut your subscription.
Did you not get Apple TV free when you got your phone?
You get it for like a year.
Oh.
And then it's like a reduced rate with your Apple phone.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I haven't watched Severance, but it's in my queue.
Watch it. What have you been doing?
Man, I'm busy, man. I got 4 kids and 3 jobs.
Sounds like a personal problem.
I'm trying, man. I'm trying. It's all I can do to keep up with the mainstream stuff, let alone TV shows.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to talk about that. So I don't want to get to streaming stuff yet.
Severance and From was another great series.
Haven't watched
it. It was from the creators of Lost, but it's on Epix.
Oh yeah. I want to see that too. Gosh. Okay, let's talk about movies. Favorite movies?
So I'll start off with my favorite of this year. And if you're surprised by it, that's on you. The Batman.
I don't know why. I don't know why we're so combative. The Batman was good.
You have to double down on these things, and I tripled down on it. But the Batman, it was phenomenal. I enjoyed it a lot. And like, again, when the DCEU was still a thing, I was much more happy with the projects that weren't a part of the DCEU.
Yeah, and I'm happy that it looks like he's going to be able to continue. Matt Reeves.
The Joker was great. The Batman was great. Again, maybe you just focus on solo movies. I don't know.
That's not what they're going to do.
I know, because you have to make a universe now for some reason.
We talked a little bit about this one earlier in the show. Glass Onion, a Knives Out mystery, is wonderful. I'm here for Benoit Blanc movies. I love the mystery movie as a genre.
I about lost it when he's in the tub and he's zooming with like Angela Lansbury and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Yeah, there's just so much, like, it's one thing to make a murder mystery, but that doesn't always make a good movie. And if you want proof of that, look at the Agatha Christie remakes that have who's in that? Is that Hugh Grant?
Probably.
I don't even remember who's in those movies. They're terrible. They're not great. But the way they make these movies where there's tons of big names in it, and it just looks like it's fun.
Yeah.
Like there's bad things happening. Like there's been a murder in Savannah. But like the characters are interesting and wild and kind of bombastic. And then there's a lot of big names. You recognize people, and it's just fun.
I'm like, Ethan Hawke, you're back.
Oh, man, this movie's full of people. Kate Hudson, Edward Norton, the girl from Iron Fist, Catherine Hahn, Janelle Monáe, Ethan Hawke, Dave Bautista, Angela Lansbury had a cameo in it. Hugh Grant had an interesting cameo in it. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. There's Natasha Lyonne. Serena Williams has a great cameo. Like, it's just really good. It's fun.
Yeah.
So I was here for Glass Onion, a Knives Out mystery. You should watch it, especially if you like Knives Out, the first one.
So I do have a question.
Yes.
Because this has been a debate amongst my friends' circles.
Okay.
Glass Onion or Knives Out? Which one's better?
I'm going to say Knives Out. I'm going to say the original. But Glass Onion's really good, and it leans into something. So it feels like a sequel because it leans into kind of the more bombastic. The characters are a little bit more kind of out there. And I'm just here for that. Like, this made me... Knives Out was a great movie, and I didn't think about it being a series. I just enjoyed it for being a movie and thought, wow, that was great. But this movie, when I watched it, I thought after I was done, I was like, okay, I'm here for an entire series of Benoit Blanc movies. I'm here for it.
I'm just glad that Daniel Craig has another franchise to follow upon.
It's great because, like, listen, Daniel Craig as Bond, I don't care for it. I was not a big fan of those Bond movies. But Daniel Craig as Benoit Blanc, perfection. He's wonderful.
So I was a fan of those Bond movies, and I'm a fan of this. So just keep giving Daniel Craig all the work.
Benoit Blanc is it's a very Sherlock Holmes kind of way. He's very unique. He's very authentic and weird. And I love the character, and I love the way he plays it. I find it wildly entertaining.
And with this one, so it takes place during the pandemic. Mm-hmm. And so I did like the way that they discussed how the pandemic was affecting people.
The part where they arrive in Greece, and the dude and Ethan Hawke is shooting them in the mouth with whatever that is, and they're all like, some of them are pushing like, what is this? And he's like, you're good. I don't have to wear a mask. You're good. Like as if they had some secret thing that neutralized the virus. It was
exactly.
That was wonderful. I loved that. That was hilarious. So Glass Onion was on my list. Do you want me to run through all mine, or do you want to alternate?
You can run through a couple more.
Yeah, because I don't have a ton to say about the other ones. I wanted to talk about Glass Onion because it was most recently on my mind. I am here, as we've already discussed on previous podcasts, for the influx of new Christmas entertainment. I went and saw Violent Night at the recommendation of Geek of the Round Table, Jason's review.
I did too.
Violent Night was great. Spirited, I enjoyed. And listen, what I really like is this, like, you know, when we're being inundated with the avatars of the world, where I have something very important to say through story. That what I missed about the 80s was sometimes we just had movies that were fun that we could get lost in. Glass Onion is one of those movies. The Christmas movies were all like that. Violent Night is like this weird, wild homage to Die Hard and Home Alone, and super violent.
So the thing that I thought Jason's review missed, and like this is just a me thing, because oh my goodness, when the scene happened, I'm like, oh my goodness, this is amazing. And I hope Mark Wahlberg's watching. So there is one of the daughters to the old lady that runs the big business. She has a boyfriend that's an actor, and he says, if I had been on one of those planes on 9/11, there would have been some people going parachute diving without a parachute. And Mark Wahlberg literally has said, because he had a ticket and he was supposed to be on one of the planes, that if I had not missed my flight, 9/11 wouldn't have happened with that plane, at least.
That character in that movie too is something else, man. He's hilarious. But yeah, for me, fun in the theater was back kind of this year. Violent Night, Top Gun Maverick is a perfect example of that. Like, it was popcorn movie fare. And recently, all we've really had of that were superhero movies. But even superhero movies are trying to have this depth. Like, they're trying to tell these like deeper things. Top Gun Maverick isn't trying to tell you anything. It's just, hey, let's have some fun in the theater like we used to. I enjoyed Prey, which was the Predator movie on Hulu. Mm-hmm. Fantastic. Don't blow me away with some deep thing. Just tell me a story. Tell me a Predator story. And it's simple and wildly entertaining. Loved it. But if you are going to go deep, show me something I haven't seen before. And the last movie on my list is Nope. I still think about Nope daily.
We rewatched it couple weeks ago, and I'm like, this still holds up. Like, it is amazing how much like I just identify with Daniel Kaluuya's character in this. I'm like,
you have a lot in common.
we basically are the same person.
Same dude. Pam Beasley, same. 2 pictures of you, same picture. You and Daniel Kaluuya.
Oh, but like literally, there's just subtle things that his character does and that his character picks up on, and I'm like, dude, you get me. Jordan
Peele is a dude I'd love to have a meal with and just talk to, because I feel like he has an awareness of the world and of humanity that we've kind of lost. that sometimes I wonder if we've kind of lost, because I tend to sit around and think kind of deeply about humans and what makes us human and what we're doing as kind of in groupthink that maybe we don't realize. And he seems to be in tune with all that. And I just find him super interesting and someone I would love to have a conversation with. So Jordan, if you're listening, give me a call.
Have your people call my people.
My people is me. Just call me. Do you have any more movies?
So this year it was a lot more. I think I was more into the popcorn flicks than the super heavy stuff. And I think part of that is just because we were coming off of the pandemic stuff and all that. But
yeah, we wanted fun, man.
Yeah. So I'm going to say the most controversial thing I will say this whole episode. I really loved Thor: Love and Thunder, but that's a given if you have listened to the podcast.
That's all I got to say about
movie
that.
I actually enjoyed, that I thought looked ridiculous, and I wasn't going to watch it until like you and Kane both told me to watch it. The Lost City with Sandra Bullock and Channing Tatum, like it was just fun.
Yeah, it's better than it has any right to be. It's one of those movies.
Like literally anytime they're interacting with Brad Pitt's character, which isn't a lot because he's not in it that long, it's hilarious.
You'll laugh. That's all I can say. Watch The Lost City. You'll laugh.
Uncharted.
Yeah, that was another movie that was good.
That movie broke Dave's video game rule.
It did.
That he went and watched the movie that was based on a video game.
Like, look, it's not the best movie ever made, but it doesn't suck.
It doesn't, and it kind of made, so in my mind, it was more like the Da Vinci Code, but more fun. It was an upbeat Da Vinci Code.
It broke my video game rule, and now I'm like, yeah, I might watch Last of Us on HBO.
And maybe Mortal Kombat finally?
No, I'm not watching Mortal Kombat.
How dare you?
Sorry, that's not happening.
And then speaking of Mortal Kombat.
Oh, no.
One of the guys from Mortal Kombat is in this movie.
Okay.
Bullet Train.
Okay, yeah, I do need to watch Bullet Train.
Oh, my goodness. Like, so hilarious with Brad Pitt. And Sandra Bullock's in it. And there's like the briefest of brief cameos of by Ryan Reynolds, and you get Paperboy from Atlanta if you watch that series.
Okay,
and so there's several funny things that happen throughout Bullet Train, and it gives you a good mix of action and comedy.
I'm gonna watch Bullet Train because of your recommendation and because my wife wants to watch it. But I gotta say, when I saw the trailer for that, I wasn't interested because I feel like I'm just kind of done with the hyper stylized Quentin Tarantino-esque action violent films. Like I just felt like when I saw the trailer, I was like, "Oh, great, another hyper stylized, whimsical, violent film." You know, like in that vein that kind of Quentin Tarantino made a thing. But I've heard enough good things about it that I'm probably going to have to watch it.
So it's a lot more lighthearted than Tarantino.
Well, that's good.
You do get some blood scenes, but not like a lot. But there's a lot more humor going on, and some of it's very whimsical. And with you having 4 kids, the guy that is from Atlanta, he plays one of the twins, and his name is Lemon, and Lemon is all about Thomas the Train.
All right.
Okay. And it makes me laugh, and it will break your heart, and it'll make you laugh.
I did have one documentary I want to mention.
Oh yeah.
George Carlin's American Dream is wonderful. It's on HBO Max, I believe. I loved George Carlin when I was growing up. I still think he's like the philosopher of that generation. He a lot of the things he talks about are true to this day. He in the vein of great comedians, I feel, and I would put Dave Chappelle in this category. What makes them great is they have a tremendous hold on humanity and what our behaviors are like and the things we do. And George Carlin they're very observant. And George Carlin was one of those people. And so I really, really enjoyed George Carlin's American Dream, which kind of is just a retelling of how he got to where he was at. And I loved it. Every minute of it, I was enthralled. So I recommend that documentary. Is that it?
So with docs, it's hard for me to distinguish like
which ones came out this year.
Came out this year, and like I'm like DJ that there's just so many that I need to have my list in front of me. I will tell you the untold ones on Netflix about like sports stuff, like The Malice in the Palace. That one was great. The basketball sports gambling episode was great. What was I know that one is older. Yeah, Netflix is great for documentaries, but at the same time, like you binge watch so many of them.
Yeah. I also enjoyed Hey Pepsi, Where's My Jet? Which is on Netflix.
That one I haven't watched yet. It's in my queue.
It's not the most well-made documentary, but it'll capture your attention and it's nostalgic. So I enjoyed it. Let's get to our end kind of categories. The best news for geeks in 2022. What would you say was the best news for geeks?
Okay, so it really depends on your geekdom, I guess. But the best news for geeks, if you are a fan of comic books, is James Gunn and Pete Safran taking over as co-heads over DC, helping make both DC and Marvel great intellectual properties, making great movies.
Yeah.
And so there's so many beloved DC figures that have nostalgic like movies from a long time ago that haven't gotten the current love and admiration of new movies or well done new movies that I think that the two new co-chairs will do justice by.
I'm going to include them because my take is more broad. But yeah, the superhero genre in movies, it's good news for you, even though the last couple years have not been great. Marvel's train started slowing down a little bit after the high of Endgame. And so there's a lot of people out there that are saying, oh no, Marvel's on the downward trend. I think what you saw out of both MCU this year, especially in the latter half of the year, and James Gunn hiring for DC is that these are two companies who understand this isn't a flash in the pan. People want more of this, and we're going to course correct. I think Marvel's doing it right now with the movies. They're shaking up kind of what their plans were. They're delaying some things like, hey, let's do quality. You're hearing a lot of quality over quantity talk. And I think Marvel understands, like Kevin Feige's a smart dude. And I think he realizes people weren't all enamored with Phase 4.
And I honestly don't think no matter what they did, people weren't.
Right.
Because it wasn't building towards, or it wasn't at the peak of something big cosmic wise. I mean, Endgame was the pinnacle of the whole Infinity Gauntlet and all the building of the previous stages. And so this was going to be a soft reboot or relaunch for Marvel anyway, because you have actors that are either aging out of those roles or don't want to be hindered or limited just to those roles. So you're going to have to get new characters in, Captain America wasn't going to be around forever. Robert Downey Jr. isn't going to play Iron Man forever. Sooner or later, Chris Hemsworth's done with Thor.
Yeah.
So you got to find new people. You got to find new characters, and you got to tell new stories.
Well, and that's actually a perfect segue into the worst news for geeks in 2022. The worst news possible for the things we love is we're reaching a point. First of all, let's call all of this what it is. If there was existing IP, intellectual property, that something is based on, then everything we get is fan fiction. Mm-hmm. Everything we get is fan fiction. I think we're at a time where we're just never going to have this unanimous love for our products anymore, because people are different and the expectations and the wants are different. So like, take Star Wars. Why I think the best news for geeks was Feige course correcting, James Gunn getting hired for DC, is because they're listening to the fans. And I think they learned that from Star Wars. Star Wars for years pretended like there was no criticism. Whoever, like Kathleen Kennedy, whatever, the way they kind of just barreled forward is they just kind of pretended that there was no criticism of Star Wars, which there was. And by all accounts, they've done something with Andor. Now, I have not watched Andor yet, but judging by what people have told me, they've done something very different. Some people like that, some people didn't. But yes, do different things. Because if what you're doing is technically fan fiction, don't go for the universal love anymore. I think Endgame is lightning in a bottle. I don't think it's going to happen again. No Way Home's close.
I think Endgame can happen again. I think that
would be great. I'm not saying I don't want it.
It just, everything has to fall in place. It's like dynasties in sports. You don't think you're going to see it again, and you might not see it for a generation, but it does happen again.
Yeah. I think after Book of Boba Fett, I was so soured on Star Wars, and especially, I won't put that all on the feet of Book of Boba Fett. Rise of Skywalker was really what crushed me, because I hated that movie.
Anything J.J. Abrams.
I absolutely hated it. And then Mandalorian's good, but Book of Boba Fett was disappointing.
Except for the episodes that were
Mandalorian centric. Yeah.
Of Mandalorian featuring Boba Fett.
But what I'm saying is I think Andor, even though I haven't watched it, I think Andor is the future of all of this. Making these really genre-specific shows or movies that some people will be into and some people won't. Like, I think that's the answer. And I think Marvel tried to do that with their TV series. They just didn't go all in enough.
Yeah.
They didn't go hard enough. Like, Miss Marvel's fine, but they didn't go hard enough. She-Hulk's terrible because they made it more of a political commentary instead of just making a bad A female superhero. You know what I'm saying? Like, they didn't go hard enough.
Yeah.
They copped out. And I think you just got to go, like, Marvel had the perfect template. This is what they did real well early on, where all the movies were connected, but they were different. Iron Man or Ant-Man's a heist movie. Captain America was, political intrigue thriller, right?
Original Thor is more Shakespearean.
Yes. So I think that's the future. They need to get back to that. And they need to not care about universal love. So, not every movie has to be Endgame.
Star Wars, if it's still happening, has Taika on deck to make shows or movies. But Taika already said, I'm not using your beloved Star Wars property. And like, I'm not going to make a show featuring Chewbacca's grandmother. I'm going to tell a new story with new characters. And which I think that's part of Star Wars issue in the past is, okay, so we have these beloved characters of yore, and then we don't know what to do with them. Like when you kill off Han Solo, the only one there that has any connection is Chewbacca, and Chewbacca you can't understand. So you have people there that are just witnessing it, and it's meaningless. And so I do value that if you're going to be a part of that cinematic universe, and especially if you have a unique storytelling way about you, don't go with the beloved intellectual property. Go with and create something new that becomes its own intellectual property that new generations can latch on to.
But here's what I'm talking about. Why this might be bad news is what made you love something might not be the direction they go. And that's great for younger generations for sure. It's great for longevity. We just have to look at it different. So the MCU has taught me this because I grew up loving these stories. And there were some choices they've made that I'm not a big fan of. But then I realized, hey, but it's not just for me. It's for the new people, the people who didn't grow up with these stories, but love them now. And so, like, I've just resigned myself to the fact, and I think Lord of the Rings people need to get here. And I was able to enjoy Rings of Power without being like, oh my goodness, they totally destroyed Galadriel's character and blah, 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 blah. Like, just watch it and be entertained. It's all fan fiction.
Like it's a prequel to The Hobbit.
Unless you are J.R.R. Tolkien himself, everything about it was fan fiction to you.
Yes.
You shouldn't have any hold on what it should be.
And like with Galadriel, I mean, she's living thousands and thousands and thousands of years.
You don't have to defend that. Don't waste your breath.
That literally, it's like, okay, this is a brief glimpse, a second into her life, essentially. Get over it, jabronis.
We're not getting into that because I will spend another 20 minutes telling Silmarillion heads that the Tolkien estate doesn't recognize that as canon. Get over it.
And I'm with the Tolkien estate.
Yeah, I'm here for the Rings of Power series. All right, what did you enjoy from 2022? What did you think was the best news for geeks and the worst news for geeks? Give us your thoughts on this episode on our social media where we post this episode in our group, our community group. Join our community group if you haven't. And we'll see you next week.